Good afternoon, everyone. I will just wait a minute because it usually takes folks a little bit of time to join from the lobby. And there's probably a number of people that are just logging on right at 4 p.m. All right, I think I will just go ahead and get us started. Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Marone Melican, and welcome to our office hours series for the Cannabis Event Organizer license. A number of you may have participated in our other office hours series where we provided general overviews of the various license types in our license application window. Um, Again, my name is Maron Melican, and I serve as the Chief Operating Officer here at OCM. And I am here alongside my colleague, Ruben Dominguez, our Outreach Coordinator. And we'll be providing a general overview about the Cannabis Event Organizer license in advance of the launch of the application for this license type. For general awareness, this session will be recorded and it will be posted on the OCM YouTube page for your review at a later date. If you haven't had the chance to already, please check out our OCM YouTube page as we have a number of our past webinars and informational series, specifically about our various license types, as well as the various programming here at OCM. I would also like to preface this presentation just by stating that the information that we share here is not necessarily, it's not legal advice. It's really intended just to provide guidance to you all about the Cannabis Event Organizer license and the various permitted activities that are associated. Any additional information, I would really recommend looking at the various guidance that's on our webpage, referring to Chapter 342, and or, of course, consulting with an attorney regarding specific details and such. But we also just want to thank you for helping guide this presentation as well. I know a number of you have been extremely engaged and proactive in wanting to talk about the Cannabis Event Organizer license and have shared a lot of feedback or questions that really allowed us to think about what are the various questions that people have and how do we ensure that we're really capturing that within this presentation. And so I will note we started getting back to a number of folks even today about some of their pre-submitted questions, and we'll continue to do that throughout this process. And so hoping that you guys are all able to lean into this. And if there's anything that is still unclear, we have some contact information at the end that we'd like you to utilize to continue to work with us so that we can ensure that this is a helpful and valuable process. So to get us started, I just want to walk through a brief agenda. My colleague and I are going to go over a number of topics. Those include the overview of the license type, the various allowable activities, samples at events, the various prohibited activities, and the application process and working with your local government. You will, in reviewing this deck, will recognize that the process is a bit different than our previous license types. And so just being able to kind of see the various differences here and ensuring that you are aware of that, whether you are attending today as a member of local government or aspiring cannabis event organizer. I think understanding just the general order of operations in the process will be extremely valuable. So I will continue on. So just in understanding the OCM, we have a set of mission and values and vision that we have for our office. Our mission being to foster an equitable cannabis industry that prioritizes public health and safety, consumer confidence, and market integrity. And our vision is that Minnesota is the standard of excellence in cannabis legalization. I want to pause here just to name that we have a series of circle of values, that of which are collaboration, integrity, responsiveness, community, learning, and empowerment. And we really, as an office, do hold true to all of these values and recognizing that this is the way that we want to be able to engage with community, advocates, and stakeholders, and ensuring that we are really learning from you all, that we're being responsive to the questions that you have, that we're being reflective, that we're collaborating with you, and that we're essentially sharing valuable information and learning from what still is unclear. And so, again, I just want to reiterate this is something that we hold true to ourselves here at OCM, and we really hope that in going through this presentation, if there are things that still seem unclear, reach out to us. We want to be responsive to you. We also want to ensure that we're updating our guidance so that it is really something that you as well as others are able to work with. Um, so just to get us started, I do want to just name a few just general updates about our office. As it relates to our Division of Social Equity, our division staff promote economic development, improve social determinants of health, provide services to prevent violence, support early intervention programs for youth and families, and promote community stability and safety. And much of this work is actually done through two grant programs that we have at our in our Division of Social Equity. And those two grant programs that are implemented and that are overseen in this division is the Can Renew grant and the Can Grow grant. The Can Renew grant awards grants to eligible organizations for investments in communities where long-term residents are eligible to be social equity applicants. And the Can Grow grant awards grants to eligible organizations to help farmers navigate the regulatory structure of the legal cannabis industry and nonprofit corporations to fund loans to farmers for expansion into the legal cannabis industry. These are two grants that we've already launched and went through an RFP process this year and are just preparing to be able to award grantees. But these are ongoing grants, and so there will be more opportunities to apply. These are also grants that local units of government are eligible to apply for. And so I always want to start our presentations in naming this as there are many parts of this cannabis industry, and one part of it is really thinking about the community reinvestment and the community restoration work that is able to take place. And this just happens to be one of the places that it does, and that's specifically within our office. So now I'm going to provide us with a license overview of the Cannabis Event Organizer license. So the cannabis event organizers can plan and host temporary cannabis related events in Minnesota. The events may be multi-day, provided that the event does not exceed 4 consecutive days in duration. This is an uncapped license and will be accepted on a rolling basis beginning on August 1st or this Friday. Licenses that may be held simultaneously as the cannabis event organizer license includes the cannabis micro business, cannabis meso business, cannabis cultivator, cannabis manufacturer, cannabis retailer, cannabis wholesaler, transporter, and delivery service. An additional item that I just wanted to cover in this license overview is the cost of this license type. The event organizer license has an application fee of $750 and an initial license fee of $750. And both the application fee and initial licensing fee are non-refundable per Minnesota statutes. And so, as you likely, if you were paying attention to, or if you have seen our various other license types, all of them have application fees and initial license fees. And obviously, with this license type, it's not a renewable license type, but in others, there are renewable fees as well. But specifically for the cannabis event organizer, it includes an application fee and an initial license fee. So now I want to highlight a series of allowable activities with the event organizer license. Those include charging an admission or entrance fee, charging vendors a flat fee for booth space, not based on sales, allowing other licensed retail eligible cannabis businesses, including lower potency hemp edible retailers, to sell cannabis and hemp products, designating an area for on-site cannabis consumption if explicitly approved by the local government, and providing attendees with cannabis-related merchandise and paraphernalia at no cost. I want to just name that these highlighted activities that we chose to share with you today can all be provided within our guidance that we'll cover at the end of this webinar as well, and that we'll make sure is in the follow-up communication once this webinar gets posted. But this is more so just a highlight of the various activities that are allowed with the Cannabis Event Organizer license. But again, we do want to refer you to our guidance as it spells it out a bit more for you. There are also a number of prohibited activities with the Cannabis Event Organizer license, some of which are charging vendors a participation fee that is calculated based on sales volume, allowing individuals under 21 years of age into an event, selling cannabis or hemp products to visibly intoxicated individuals, using vending machines or other unattended devices to dispense cannabis or hemp products, permitting the use or consumption of alcohol or tobacco at the event, allowing cannabis smoking in areas where it is prohibited by the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act. Registered hemp establishments cannot participate in these events, and they must obtain a lower potency hemp edible license. I do want to just name that this is not an exhaustive list. And so again, we refer folks to the guidance that's on our webpage that we'll talk about at the end of this presentation. But a full list can be seen in Minnesota Statutes section 342.40. And so again, we are just providing a general overview, a highlight of some of the prohibited activities, but we do highly recommend that folks are referring back to statute and they are referring to our guidance to see a larger list of what essentially is not allowed. So as it relates to samples at events, we know that this is something that there's been a lot of conversation about, a lot of excitement or interest around. And so we just want to provide some guidance here. And we'll, of course, refer you to some of our guidance that's on the web as well. But there are a number of licensees who can provide samples. They include micro businesses with a retail endorsement, mezzo businesses with a retail endorsement, cannabis retailers, med combo businesses with a retail location, and lower potency hemp edible retailers. It's also important to note that samples can be cannabis plants, cannabis flower, cannabis products, lower potency hemp edibles, hemp and hemp-derived consumer products. License holders providing such samples must display a label or notice containing the information required to be affixed to the packaging or the container. And retailers must track those samples in metric. And so there are a series of instructions or essentially guidance that is associated with samples. And so we highly recommend that folks are referring to statute and they are taking a look at the guidance that we have provided for folks that are interested in this license type to ensure that they are compliant with all rules and regulations. Continuing on as it relates to samples, sample sizes may be up to 1 gram of cannabis flower, up to 1 gram of cannabis concentrate, cannabis edibles containing up to 10 milligrams of THC, and lower potency hemp edibles or LPHE containing up to 5 milligrams THC, or 100 milligrams of the listed cannabinoids that you could see on this last bullet point. An additional item to just note as well is that license holders must not distribute samples to someone who is visibly intoxicated. And I just want to name that we mentioned that in the list of prohibited activities as well. But we just want to continue to reiterate this point as safety is, one of our main priorities within this space as well, and that we want to ensure that cannabis event organizers, as they are hosting events, abide by this as well. So just a few additional requirements. Event organizers must hire licensed security for their event. The event organizer is responsible for the following as well: the secure storage of cannabis products and the proper disposal of cannabis waste. All the products must be transported to and from the event using a licensed cannabis transporter. Background checks will be required for all applicants. And please note that only businesses with a cannabis business license are allowed to participate in events. Registered businesses that are allowed to sell hemp-derived cannabinoid products or HDCPs are not allowed to participate. And so again, just want to ensure that folks are reading our guidance, as we know that a lot of this information is very new, and it is a different process. And so I am going to pass it over to my colleague Ruben just to talk a bit more about the application process. But understanding these various requirements, I think is going to be really important as folks are navigating the space, whether you are a local government that is going to be navigating this space with folks that are interested in having events in your community, or you are potentially an cannabis or an applicant for a cannabis event organizer license, and just fully understanding what are all of the rules and regulations before fully embarking on this journey. And so again, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Ruben to take it from here.
All right, folks, and thank you, Maron, for the handoff. So, first things first, I'm just going to provide a brief overview of the application process for the event license type. I want to note that this slide again is just a brief overview, and I'll be diving into more details about all these boxes and steps in the upcoming slides. But the biggest thing to note that is different from the other applications that OCM does have available, or did have available, better said, is that the applicants must first work with their local government to obtain approval first, and this will happen even before coming to OCM. So a local gov have to sign off on a form that has some of the event details, and just sign off that they're in agreement and they have received approval. Following that, that form will also have to be submitted into Acela, and Acela is our software that we use to track all of the applications that we receive. And alongside that form, there will also be some additional requirements and FPORs that a person must turn in. OCM will then conduct a brief overview of the application content, and also conduct a phone inspection. And this will just help us ensure compliance, go over any event details, et cetera, on that phone call. And I know it was mentioned in a previous slide, but a background check will be required. And if that passes, the event will then receive its official license. I want to flag also that there may be a possible inspection at the event by either OCM or our partners with the city or county that's hosting it. And this whole process has to take place at least 30 days before the event date starts. So I think it'll be good for us to dive a bit more into that first step about working with your gov to obtain that approval. As mentioned, you have to work with them to get every detail finalized first before coming to OCM. And the way that this will take place is with the event form that's there on the right. This will have the questions that include things as expected attendance of the event, expected vendors, time of the events, that kind of stuff. And at the bottom of this form, there will be a box that a person who can be a rep for that a city or a county can sign off on, and that form will then be turned into Acela for OCM to then look at. Please note that if any of the event details were to change after the approval has been granted, OCM may then turn around and tell the applicant to restart an application, and I get approval once more following this process. The exception to this will be also the a vendor list that can be updated in the process right before the event, but I'll touch more on that in the next slide. What OCM recommends is that you begin working with your city, county, township as early as possible. Really begin to build that relationship with them to understand all the rules and regulations that they may have surrounding cannabis events. We imagine this being a collaborative process, and we hope that you can work with your government to finalize all the event and details first and then come to us. In this, please feel free to use our guide that we have there on the right to help aid in your conversations with them. We imagine this to be one of the many tools that we have to hopefully help in this process, alongside with some more that I'll touch on the last slide. So I didn't also I mentioned that there will be other things that will be required into Ocella at the time of applying. These forms can include a site, a diagram, an event diagram, your operations plan, a standard operating procedure document, your cap tables, and then also a full list of everyone who is planning to sell cannabis and or LPHE edibles at the event. Everyone who does plan to partake in these activities must have a full license granted by OCM to them, and OCM will then turn around and also review their license number and ensure that they are in good standing with our office before granting the license to the event. Please note that this can be updated within 72 hours before the event. So if in case you want to make any edits, you can, and we will still do our part to verify that that vendor is in good standing with OCM. And once again, I know I flagged this before, but we do require a background check at the time of submitting an application or throughout that process. I think I put that down on the fourth step. Additionally, I know that enforcement and inspections is a thing that I did touch upon as well. And as part of that, our team will conduct a phone inspection with the applicant. This phone inspection will just be to go over the event details, ask questions, and will help us ensure compliance with all the rules and guidelines that we have in our office. Additionally, we will also be able to help assist with any questions if need be. And then again, during the event, OCM may inspect it just to ensure that compliance is still going on and to make sure everything is going according to plan that was outlined in the event diagram. Finally, I want to note that OCM does have a list of recommended actions, and a big thing is to go on our site. You can see they're playing in that small video. We have a list of resources that our team has compiled to hopefully aid you in this process, which includes our guide to events. It also includes all the documents I mentioned, your site plans, your event diagrams, etc. That can all be viewed on our site. Additionally, and again, I want to drive home this point a little bit more, engage with your city and county as early as possible. Really build that relationship with them to understand their rules and regulations surrounding cannabis events. Again, you can use our other guide as well to hopefully aid in this conversation. And I know in this PowerPoint, we gave a small list of allowable activities and also activities that are banned. We also encourage you guys, if you're interested in applying for an event a license, to please review statutes 342.39 and 342.40 to have a better understanding of the full list of activities that are allowable under this license type. Please also note that we're here to help throughout this process. You can email our office with that email below. We'll be glad to field any questions and assist in any way possible. But with that, that will take us to the end of our presentation. So I want to thank you all for taking the time out to be here. Once again, I just want to flag that the event application window will open up officially this Friday, August 1st. And if you guys have any questions, you can always email our office. We do plan to post this webinar online, so please look out for that. And we will also make sure to email all the attendees the link to the video, and as well as follow up with any questions. But with that, thank you all for attending.